Hey, Aqua. Oh my god. I'm like falling asleep. What does lamp have to do with pie? Feeling groovy. Pie is good. I eat a lot of pumpkin pie. It's like my favorite pie. Okay. Like at the beginning of this book, I would like the first like I don't know, like 5 pages. I was like, this doesn't really feel like Dworkin. I was like, it's too like it's philosophical and like she's postulating her theory, but it's not like I didn't feel like being smacked in the face with words, and I was like, "This doesn't feel like Dworkin." And then, like on like the fifth page or whatever, she starts talking about like, yeah, I think this is the phrase that I was like, "Okay, here the Dworkin is." Yeah, and the derision of female lives does not stop with these toxic, ugly, insidious slanders, because there is always, in every circumstance, the derision in its skeletal form, all bone, the meat stripped away clean. She is pussy, cunt. Every other part of the body is cut away, severed, and there is left a thing, not a human, an it, which is the funniest joke of all. I mean, that paragraph, I was like, okay, here's the dork. It was like, oh my god, so brutal. Um, okay, so I wasn't really sure how I'm gonna do the analysis because like Dorkin can be so heavy, like so heavy. Like, okay, the only ever other Dworkin that I've actually read like cover to cover is pornography. Other than that, I've read like individual chapters or like essays and stuff because it's like so heavy. It's like an emotional like thing. Chagal says, "Do y'all think Dworkin and McKinnon are trans inclusive?" Um, I think I'm absolutely certain that if Dworkin was alive today, her analysis of trans activism would just be like an extension of what she thinks about like pornography. And this, like, when I was reading this, one of the things I was thinking was, so she's talking about how women are like, this is like a thing I already knew, like this concept I was already aware of. Women, right wing or conservative women, they view it as like I'm making a deal with men so that they don't hurt me and they hurt the other women. I view that a lot in trans activism with like what the females are doing. Like if I make a deal with the men in the trans movement or the queer movement, whatever, they're gonna hurt the other women and not me. And like, so I'm pretty sure based on like everything I've read from Andrea Dworkin that if she was alive right now, she would have like a fuckload of shit to say about queer theory and how misogynistic it is. McKinnon, I mean, I don't know a ton about her. Like I know obviously who she is and what she's about, but I don't know a ton of like her backstory and stuff. I'm pretty sure though that she wouldn't be able to like differentiate between like porn and its harms of women and like the queer sexual access movement. Like it's the same thing. So I mean that's what I think, but obviously I like not summoning them from the grave to ask them. So oh yeah. A Bird Killed Me says, didn't Dworkin's gay boyfriend, not boyfriend, say that she would have hated turfs or something? How dare he be so misogynistic in her name? Yeah, yeah. Um Someone brought up the fact that Dworkin was married. I don't know about her first marriage. I don't really know about like the timeline of her life and stuff a lot. Like I know she eventually moved to America and stuff like that, but like when she became a feminist and like to what degree and like at one point in her life she declared herself a lesbian feminist and all that kind of stuff. Um yes, Michelle says if I recall correctly, Dworkin revised Janice Raymond's seminal book, The Transsexual Empire, and she reviewed it positively. Yeah, exactly. Like it's hard if it's kind of impossible for me to think somebody has such a a deeply rooted feminist analysis and they could look at that and like not be able to apply the analysis. You know what I'm saying? Um, but yeah, what was I saying? Yeah, somebody brought up Lisa Michelle brought up that Dorkin used to be married. That she's been married twice. I didn't know she'd been married twice. I know John Stoltenberg. That's like her, like the husband she had when she died. Um, he's gay and she's a lesbian. I'm not exactly sure why they got married. To be honest with you, I feel like I should know that. I'll figure it out eventually. It's on my long list of things that I need to research. But I mean, you know, she was lesbian, he was gay, so like a violent marriage or something. All right. Adelcat says today, Dworkin, like a lot of people, would see the result of what used to seem like theoretical. A lot of brutal things are being done by trans activists. Yeah, I completely agree. Okay. So like I was saying, I wasn't really sure how I'm gonna do the analysis. I think that like when I was doing the lesbian psychologies analysis, it's gonna depend a lot about how tired I am and how much energy I have to focus on every little detail. Michelle says he seems to have. She's referring to John Stoltenberg's Andrea Dworkin's husband, second husband. He seems to have dined out on her efforts quite often. Not exactly a shining example of manhood. Yeah, there are a lot of radical feminists who like John Stoltenberg, because like he does have something that women don't have, and that is the male perspective on male things, right? So he does give like the male perspective on like why does porn have such a big influence on men and stuff like that. Like honestly, I haven't done a ton of research on his stuff. People have sent me things by him, be like, "You need to read this essay. You need to watch this lecture," and I'm like, "Yeah, someday it's on my list of stuff." Um, but yeah, I've seen this stuff where he's like, "Well, Andrea Dworkin was my wife, or my best friend, or however whatever he refers to her as, and she said this and that, and like I know her, so blah blah blah," and it's just like so fucking disrespectful to me. Like especially given like she literally in like this book and in pornography and in other quotes I've read from her, she talks about how like men's gossip is taken as like sacrosanct and women's reality is viewed as like something nebulous that's not really to be taken theories seriously because they're not like authentic persons, I think is the terminology that she uses in the first couple pages of this book. And like for John Stoltenberg to be telling us what she thought and who she was and what she would be doing now while he's a fucking man, that's literally like the embodiment of that. It's his gossip is being viewed as sacrosanct while her reality is being viewed as like some nebulous, mysterious thing that we can't know about. Dude, you can fucking know what she thinks. There are books about it. Like, anyway. Where's Mama? Mama! This is a very good question. Mama, come. Mama, say hello. Why is the camera doing that? Camera, awaken yourself. Are you falling asleep? Okay, I'll put her back where she was. I feel mean now. Mama. Okay, so maybe I'm too far away from the camera. I mean, I don't think I'm that much farther than I used to be, but it did this at the beginning. Remember I like closed my camera and opened it again? I was like, why is it like unfocused? Right. Mama, I'm sorry. Well, she doesn't look angry, she just looks confused. Okay. Right, so let's take a brief break from this really heavy shit for like 3 seconds. I'll tell you about my new house and my move and all that shit, you know, as we do on the streams. This is my new area. Here is the painting that Aqua sent me. Here is the flag that Dragon Kittigan sent me. So the lighting in here is really good. I'm not exactly sure why the lighting in here is better than my last place. I'm using using literally the same exact lamps that I used in my last, like, my desk is set up almost identically. I mean, I've changed which, like, the angle of the camera because of this, but like everything is the same. So I don't know why. Like it literally looks like I'm using a different camera, doesn't it? It looks so much clearer, which I don't like. I was gonna buy like a cheaper camera, but then like the difference between this and the last one was like this one was so much better quality and it was like $15. So anyway, wow, Michelle, you misgendered your cat. Maybe the window. But I don't know, like I have all the curtains covering all the windows just like the last time so that I'm like controlling the light. I don't fucking know. Anyway, whatever. Um Maybe the ceiling is more white or something. I'm not sure. So yeah, the only downside to my current setup is that like Momo, there's nowhere for her to sit to be on camera. I was thinking to get like a cat tree or something here, but also, oh, you misgendered my cat. Oh, Momo, she doesn't care. She's like licking her butt. Um. Also though, cat trees are so expensive, and half the time when I get cat things from Momo, she's not interested in them. So I'm not sure if it's worth it. Maybe you're emanating more light. Yeah, like an angel on Supernatural. um okay. Yeah. Also, oh my god, the Wi-Fi situation. Like where my bedroom is, like this house, it's like an original house that's like very old. And then there's like an attachment on the back, and the attachment on the back is where my bedroom is. And like the Wi-Fi doesn't make it through that wall because that wall is like a real wall. It used to be the outside of the house, right? Like a really thick like brick wall with like insulation and rebar and shit. So like I literally didn't have Wi-Fi in my room. Like I had to get a second router and like run a cable, like a Ethernet cable, and like set up a second Wi-Fi in my own bedroom. And like now I can plug that into my, because I have like a router here, I can plug it into my PC. But like, oh my gosh, it was very painful. Um, Also, I was predicting that I wouldn't really have. I was predicting that I wouldn't really have like an issue with the Momo opening the door all the time. But no, I'm gonna have the same issue here. Uh I think I'm gonna get like a series of curtains to put through all my doors, and that way if I leave my door open, it'll kind of be like soundproofed-ish. While Momo is going in and out. We'll see. Um I really like the idea of getting a cat door and putting it in my door. But like this is a rental. I'll need to go like buy a door, put the cat door in that door, and then install that door in the door jamb. And installing a new door in a door jamb is not a simple thing to do. So like I don't fucking know. We'll see. Anyway, my move was very painful. Like I'm so good at like squirreling stuff away. Like I'm so good. Send you extra money. Oh yeah, I need to buy a new chair. Like I don't know. This is Momo, obviously. But the issue really, say door again. Why do I say it weird? Do I say it in a Canadian way? Um, but my chair, it's like, and when I'm sitting reading for like an hour, I definitely move around. So I want to get like, well, not something super expensive, but something nicer. Something that I know I can like put oil on it if it starts creaking. Um. Anyway, so that's like the one thing I want to like buy for like my streaming, and probably at some point this summer. But I'm doing like a bunch of traveling this summer, and I'm gonna be kind of broke. Oh, said it so many times. It was funny, like a little rap lol. Um, yeah. What else was I gonna say? Oh yeah, the move was so painful. Like, I I'm so good at like organizing my stuff, not in a way that I've gotten rid of my junk, but in a way that it fits in small spaces. So I thought, oh, I have packed most of the stuff in my room. I'm ready to move. And then like the moving came and I was like, holy shit, I have so much stuff. Like I've only packed like a third of my stuff. I was like, I have so much stuff, and like, oh my god, like I have like my injury in my wrist. So I was packing stuff into tiny boxes and being like, because I want to carry my stuff because I have so much stuff, it's not fair to anybody else to carry my stuff. Then I was like, oh my god, like going up and down the stairs was like forever. And like so many trips in the car. Like, oh my god, it was so bad. And then um I it wasn't even like hot. It was like 22 degrees, like on the 2 days that we moved the most stuff, like the furniture and everything. And on those days, I like got such severe like heat exhaustion and dehydration. Like I was puking up water. Like I was like very unwell. I was like, do I need to go to the hospital? Um and I was like, it was not good. It was, like, very not good. Uh, but coconut water. So, what book is $615? Momo does Momo climb? Yeah, I survived. I also think maybe I need to be, like, a healthier person generally. That's probably part of it, of the transgender empire, transsexual empire. Yeah. Um, I honestly, like, for this, I just have PDFs of it. Like, all of Dworkin you can find online for free, basically. Um, I a lot of stuff I just have on my iPad because I'm like, I can't afford to buy it at that price. Like, so I'm just not gonna have it. I'm gonna have I mean, honestly, it would be cheaper if you downloaded the PDF and printed the PDF. It would still cost you like a bunch of money in ink and paper because the books are like 250 pages. But like it's cheaper than that. I don't know. Like if you want a paper copy, not be on an iPad or something. Anyway, okay, let's get to the book. So the analysis I'm going to do today, I think, is going to be pretty like general. Uh, what time is it? Supposed to like talk to this woman. She might be watching. I'm not sure about this like lesbian organizing thingy later. Oh, you guys want here? Do you want me to find it for you? Give me a second. Like I have Transsexual Empire on my iPad, so I know I downloaded it somewhere. I'm pretty sure it's on radfem.org. Most of them are on radfem.org. Also, you can check there's like two links to like feminist archives in the description that have a bunch of different books and translations of books in different languages. You can check there too for other stuff. Here's a bunch of books by Jeffries. I haven't found that exact one, but give me another minute. On this website, you can download a bunch. You can download 5 books a day, but if you have a VPN, just change your location. You can download more. I'm not finding it right now, but I'm sure it's on the internet somewhere. I will find it and I will post a link in my YouTube somewhere. Okay, let's move on to different things. All right. Oh, amazing. Okay. I don't think I'll ever read this on my channel just because it's like, what is there to explain? Like, read it yourself. Okay. Yeah. Although I have been told that Lesbian Heresy by Jeffries, which is in the link that I sent, which is like one of like it's like a sixth book or something in that link, is like super, super relevant to like queer stuff right now in lesbians. So yes. Um thank you very much, Michelle. Lol, the best professor wasn't there to explain, just read it yourself. Okay, okay. Analysis time. God, I need like a coffee or something. Okay. So, first concept she discusses is how women are like essentially conservative in that they're meant to conserve life, produce life and conserve life, right? No, you didn't derail, Michelle. It's completely fine. I needed a bit of a break from this. Okay. So, but then it's irrational because women are supposed to create and conserve life, and then they're supposed to happily send their sons off to get massacred by each other. Makes no sense. Um, then she spends quite a huge portion of the chapter talking about like what are the expectations for women. So they're supposed to be good wives, good mothers, supposed to be completely servile to all the males in their proximity. They're supposed to do this like as if it's fulfilling, happy thing for them. And when it's not fulfilling and happy, they need to make it pretend like be in denial, pretend to society, to everyone that it's fulfilling and happy. Teach to their daughters that this will make you fulfilled and happy because if you don't do this, you're gonna fucking get killed. So what you need to do to survive, right? Um, Kaz, what does that even mean? If I ever host a live, I'm just going to conveniently fall down some stairs. What? Okay. Um. So she. Oh, where's her list? I love lists. I found this concept like so amazing. Well, not. I mean, just I liked it. I was like, yes, that makes sense to me. She talks about how women don't want to become their mothers. Obviously, it's like well established. Don't need to explain this. Um, but all they do is replicate their mother's behavior, but with a different set of men. And so in that way, they're just like their mothers. And that I was like, oh, that makes so much sense to me. Like, yes, yes. Um, it's so interesting to me how she calls the denigration of the autonomy and authenticity of women's personhood slander. She talks about the fishwife, the bourgeois woman, the aristocrat, the Jewish mother, the lesbian, the black woman, how all of these caricatures, she calls them slander. I thought that was pretty interesting. Because I always think of that kind of stuff as propaganda, right? But slander makes a lot of sense too. Especially when she keeps bringing up, and a lot of the times of what I've read from her, she brings up this idea of like men's rumors. So slander fits perfectly with that. Michelle says, I don't know. Honestly, there are so many women. Maybe that applies to women at the time in the US. I agree, our society is about conformity. There are just so many outliers. Yeah, I was thinking that too. I was like, I almost think it's like, okay, so you know how with gender, there's now like 10 billion genders. So the people who believe in gender, they think they're breaking outside the gender, but actually all they're doing is buying into a specific box and then stuffing themselves in that box. How many women think that they're breaking out of conformity, nothing to do with queer theory. I mean, just like generally in society, like normal women think that they're breaking out of patriarchy, but actually they're just like stuffing themselves into a new box. You know what I'm saying? Like, how many of the outliers do we view as outliers? But if you put a microscope on it, you would see that they're not an outlier. You know what I'm saying? I get what you're saying, Michelle. I was thinking the same thing when I was reading this book. This chapter. I was thinking some of this stuff, like, I think in the grand scheme of the world, it is still true to say that women are brought up to be mothers and wives. I think that's accurate, right? Like, maybe not like in your specific area at this specific time, but in the grand scheme of like the world generally, that's still true, right? But while reading this, I thought, I don't know, like you have to put yourself in the right headspace for Dork. I'm not trying to like comment on you, Michelle. I'm just thinking generally. Like, you have to put yourself in the right headspace for Dworkin. That she's talking in broad strokes so you understand the concepts that she's throwing at you, right? But I do think that there's like something missing now reading this. That like it applies to the current times. But just I don't know, like compare the 80s to now, okay? 40 years. How many women couldn't get a credit card without a man? And now how many women, like when they're 18, they move out, they get their own job, whatever, right? They don't even think about all the things that a man might need to be there to help them do, right? So there is definitely like a disconnect because of the time. But I still think it's widely applicable. And I was always like, okay. So you guys know I'm always like ranting about like GC women. Okay, I really have the feeling this is gonna be like a 2 hour stream. Okay. Um oh, we don't have something to do at 5:30. What time is it? It's 2:30. Okay, that's fine. So, I'm always ranting about GC women who are not rad femmes because I'm like very rad femme. Um, so I think a lot of women who are GC view themselves as gender critical. But when you really get right down to it, how gender critical are they? Because they believe they're gender critical. It's like they only need to do like 10% of the analysis or the research and they think they've gotten all the way there. I think that concept, like I'm just trying to make things like related to things I've talked about before on the channel. I think that concept applies a lot to like the modern woman who views herself as a feminist. She thinks, well, I got an apartment without a guy, I got a job without a guy, I'm like building my life right now without a guy, so I've like no patriarchy for me. That's it, a done deal. Like, I think that because things have changed rapidly, like when someone like peaks and becomes gender critical, it's quite a rapid change psychologically. They view themselves as not having the problem that they initially had because the changes happened so quickly. But is the actual material situation they're in that radically different than it was before? Or has the pace of the change given them like a false sense of the breadth of the change? You know what I'm saying? I don't really know if I'm saying what it makes sense, but I'm kind of like, you know what I'm trying to say? I don't know. Ugh. I'm not even gonna mention that dude's name. I don't want to talk about him. But I will say, like, okay, there was like two things that were like made me like we need to read this book now. The first thing, no, three things. Okay. The first thing was like the destabilization of abortion in the US, right? Obviously, a lot of feminists and of course rad femmes like very upset about that, very concerned about that. The next thing was Matt Walsh and his bullshit and being like, I reached out to the feminists and they didn't want to talk to me and whatever. Okay, I'm not gonna get into it, but obviously he's a piece of shit. Okay. I mean, obviously. uh, and the last thing was Sister Outrider, who is a Scottish, um, radical feminist essayist. Actually, an author too, isn't she? Whatever though. I've read her stuff before and after. Ellen and her blog has some really great stuff, and her stuff has been around like for like 10 years or something. Um, she recently wrote a thread about how basically making concessions and working with the right is like a long term, it's not a good plan for women. And that by doing that, you are necessarily um oh my god, my brain. What is the word I'm looking for? By deciding to work with the right, you are necessarily excluding is not the word I'm looking for. Disenfranchising is not the right word. Ostracizing, I'm not sure. Whatever. You're necessarily making the other women who want to do the work with you uncomfortable to do it with you, right? And so how you might think, well, we have some common goals for now, and that makes it worth it to work with them. But what, like, in the long run, we can just get rid of them and do our own thing. That's not how it works. That is like a really, really short term, myopic perspective of things, in my perspective, and also according to Sister Outrider. So the general compromising, that's thank you, Rachel, but that's also not the right word. I don't know what fucking word I'm looking for. Also, hi, Rachel. um, but yeah, the general response to that Twitter thread was women attacking her and saying, well, the left fucked us over, so of course we have to support the right now, all this weird bullshit. Or like, well, no one else is doing anything, so at least if the right is doing something to fight for women's rights, like blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, you are so fucking short sighted. You think that working with the right, especially like on legislation and like with funding and crap, for like, like, I don't know, 3 decades or something, you're gonna be able to just like brush that off one day and go your own way and it's not gonna have an effect on you? Or like how many women who are current, like I've met women like this, okay? I have been in these situations where I go into a group that is a single issue group in real life. And the group says we are single issue. And um because they're single issue, they will let racists, misogynists, lesbophobes in their midst. What is the result of that? The lesbians who joined will leave. The women of color who joined will leave. The radical feminists will leave. Who are you left with? So this whole big tent thing, we need to be big tent so we can, look forward and like oh, single issue, like just bite your tongue when you don't get along with people because we need to be big, like that is like a really fucking idealistic way of looking at things. As somebody who's been like doing some shit for a while, that doesn't really work. Like when you do that, all the lesbians leave, all the women of color leave, all the radical feminists leave because you're constantly shitting on them and they're like, why am I spending all my time and energy giving you guys doing work with you guys if you think I'm a disgusting, deplorable person because I don't support your heterosexual stay-at-home mother lifestyle? Why am I doing all this? Why am I the one upkeeping your website and taking notes at the meetings when you say all this lesbophobic shit to me? Like, it just makes no fucking sense. Anyway, so Sister Outrider made this thread. It's not like what I'm talking about is not exactly what she was talking about, but that's what I got out of it. That's what I got out of the women's responses to it. And so those three things, like the abortion stuff in the US, Matt Walsh and Sister Outrider's thread, like yesterday or 2 days ago, I was like, I need to fucking read this book because to you guys, because I just think that women have like such an oversimplistic view, like women who are like in the GC, Radfem, whatever movement, have such a oversimplistic view of like what is the right? What is the relationship of the right with patriarchy and the left of patriarchy and radical feminists or women who are against patriarchy? Like, what is the relationship between these groups? They have such an oversimplistic view of it and an oversimplistic view of the consequences of overlooking the motivations of these groups that I'm like, we need to talk about it. What are the motivations? What are their end goals? And what can we actually get out of working with these people? Right? Like, I don't know. It's obviously like super, super situational, right? Like if there was only one school district in Canada where a Muslim girl brought a complaint against her school because she wants to use the female only washroom, and a radical feminist sent an amicus brief to the court, is that colluding with the right? I don't think so. Right? Like there's like it's a nuanced conversation to be had. But like The conversation needs to be had instead of just saying, well, they're the only ones doing anything, so I might as well shoot myself in the foot right now and work with them because there's no one else doing anything. Um, like, I really don't like Abigail Schreier. I have, like, a lot of fucking issues with her and her stupid fucking book, and I know everybody loves the book, and, like, good for you and whatever, and, like, I'm not trying to, like, offend you. You can like the book, that's your problem. But, like, she was the first, like, wake-up call to me that people are like, because we have no ally, anyone is a good ally. And, like, look what's happening with Matt Walsh. I think this is the point where people are realizing, "Oh, maybe anyone is not a good ally. Maybe I should have some kind of qualifiers for who I put my support behind," you know? Anyway, okay. So these are the reasons that I'm reading this book right now. Edelcat says, The Power Worshippers Inside the Dangerous Rise of Christian Nationalism by Catherine Stewart is one of the many great books about the goals of the right wing. Thank you very much for that recommendation. I'd like to say I'm going to read it, but honestly, my radical feminist and lesbian separatist stuff, I have like 50 books to read, so I'm probably not going to read that, but thank you. Maybe somebody else will get something out of it. And you know, like if you're watching right now and you're like, Benji, how dare you say XYZ things? Like, fuck you, whatever. Like, okay, fine. You can think that, whatever. But like, you can be here and like disagree with me. Like, the point of these streams is to get you thinking. Like, even if you disagree with me, hopefully what I'm saying will give you more ammo to defend your position. I just want you to be able to think. That's all I want, you know? What does Rachel say? Where'd it go? A Bird Killed Me says they have that the enemy of my enemy is my friend logic going on. Yeah. Which is like, I've read Machiavelli and The Prince, although that was like when I was 12 or 13 or something. And like this whole the enemy of my enemy is my friend thing, I think it only really applies in like really specific situations that are like tactical and short term. When you're doing anything that's like long term and that's basically all PR based, like everything that's happening right now, it's like 100% PR based. Everything with abortion rights, everything, it's like PR based. Everything is about marketing and what people think is happening. The enemy of my enemy is my friend does not apply in that situation because you can't wipe it off after. Whereas, like, if you're going into a war and you're both trying to kill the same people, like on a battlefield, that's a very different situation, you know? Like, it's a very, I don't know. Edelcat says, oh, and some feminists keep saying it's great to work with conservative women and never mention the issues with right wing organizations. Yeah, I agreed. Rachel says, I'm seeing detransitioned women talking with members of the far right, and it makes me really uncomfortable. Yeah. And like at the end of the day, I'm like, I don't want to control anyone, and I can't control anyone. All I can do is voice my opinion and try to explain to people why I think what I think. And you can agree with me if you want to or disagree with me if you want to, but at least you understand why I think the way I think and why I'm doing what I'm doing. And that's all I can really do. Cass says, Benji, we're sharing a brain right now because I typed that out partially in a rant online. um, Rachel says, I think there is sometimes a gray area, though, where we can use them sparingly to get our voices out, but we have to know who we're working with and who their audience is. Yeah, that's the thing too, is like in some of the advocacy work that I've done, I've had like Christian fundamentalist organizations approach me and be like, we want to publish your stories, like the people you represent, or like we want to like um give you a platform to do a press conference, something like really like big. And I'm like, why are they doing this? You little bit of research. Like they're trying to do some super, super insidious stuff, and they view detransition as the thin edge of the wedge, the thin end of the wedge, right? In that case, it would be to our detriment to work with them. Alternatively, if you have a media outlet that's viewed largely as conservative, like Quillette's a good example. In Canada, most people view Quillette as quite conservative. I don't think it's like so conservative as much as it's like free speech and anybody can say anything on Quillette, but that's like my personal opinion. You can think what you want. But like to me, it's like So, say there is some random Canadian who thinks Quillette is right wing, but hypothetically, I'm allowed to write for Quillette and I'm allowed to write my own, put my own unedited words on there, and it's just a platform for me to say what I have to say, and my story is not being utilized by anyone. It's not being put on there because of their agenda. That's a different situation, right? Anyway, like I've talked to some lesbians in France. So, the situation for lesbians in France is quite serious. The way I view it is French legislature and French police and stuff. It's like really, really patriarchal, or at least it's enforced in a more patriarchal way than in some place somewhere like Canada. And so situation is quite, quite bad for them. And like the last woman I talked to from France said, yeah, they're constantly being physically assaulted. Um like constantly. Not like one time at Pride, like constantly. And like there's literally like there's been a series of Instagram accounts that will publish their addresses, and then they'll wake up in the morning and people like pissed and shit on their door and like called their workplaces to say that they're like pedos or something. Like the situation for lesbians in France right now is extremely dire. And I know this one lesbian, she said, I wrote an opinion piece about what's going on with lesbians. And the only person who would publish me, I can't remember what outlet it was, but she basically said it was like the Breitbart of France. And she said they were the only people who would publish my piece. She's like, they didn't edit it, they just gave me a platform. And she's like, I'm being attacked for colluding with the right. And I was like, I think there's a conversation to be had there. I understand why the women are upset, but I also understand why you did what you did. And I don't know, it's such a complicated topic because I do think, but also what other people are saying. Just because I think the right is full of crap doesn't mean I think the left is like amazing. I think the left is generally also full of crap. It's just a different brand of crap. um, uh, hey, Blood Moon. Wait, what was I going to say about that? I don't know. I lost my train of thought. I completely lost my train of thought. Yeah. Yes. Chagall says new feminist outlets like 4W and Redux are interesting. I very, very much agree. I'm so happy about the existence of Redux and 4W. Amazing stuff. Amazing stuff. Very, very great. Hey, Possible Person. Um, yeah. Polar said so. This could also be a critique of Kelly J. Keane. Yeah. I think so. Like, I don't know. Like, okay, somebody's gonna crucify me on like somewhere on the internet, but whatever. I'm gonna say what I have to say. You guys know me. I don't say what I have to say to be popular. So I know quite a few detrans lesbians in the UK who love Posey Parker. I really like Posey Parker Speaker's Corner idea because we know she is not a radical feminist, but she lets radical feminists speak there. The purpose of Speaker's Corner is not to platform the women that she thinks agree with her. It's to let any woman speak about whatever she has to say. And that I totally agree with. That I think is like a traditional liberal position, right? Free speech. Good. But I kind of view Kelly J. Keane somewhat very tangentially in this one aspect to be similar to Matt Walsh, and it's this. She talks about, trans medicine is bad, it makes no sense, it hurts women. Matt Walsh says the same thing. But she also supports conservative gender roles. And I've seen a lot of her old posts on Facebook and Twitter that are like supremely, supremely homophobic and lesbophobic. People can change with time. I don't know. I'm just saying. This is what I've seen. And if you support very rigid gender roles, very rigid sex roles, and are homophobic, you are supporting the thing that is generating the problem you're claiming to fight against. Like that's how I see it. And if you like Posey Parker, I'm not telling you you don't have to like her. I'm not you don't I don't know. If you're new to my channel, maybe you don't know. Like I'm not telling you what to do or what to think. You do what you want, you think what you want, whatever. Good for you. But like that's what I think of it. And so I kind of view it as like, she's getting the message out there and whatever. That's good. She's giving women platforms. That's good. I don't think she's like the best spokesperson for things. But I do understand people who say, well, Posey Parker is doing something. If you're going to criticize her, are you going to take her place and do what she's doing? Fair enough. I'm not no, I can't. I don't have the capacity. Um, I don't know. Blood Moon is saying that she doesn't support gender roles for every woman. She just says that she loves motherhood. I think that she has learned what to say and what not to say so that she can get her message across without getting too many people to fight against her. I think that's what's happened with her. I'm not trying to say that makes her like some insidious bad guy because like that's what you have. Like I said all the time, everything is PR. Everything is about marketing and PR. So she's good at that. So that's what she's doing. So good for her. But like, I don't think that necessarily means that she is like on our side or whatever. Like to, you know what I mean? I don't know. Michelle says, I think Kelly J. Keene is a marketing genius and she's a human who makes mistakes. Yeah, fair enough. That's, I think, an accurate description of her. Um, yeah, Aqua too. I didn't know what Spiked was until I read gender critical stuff on it. Like, I remember linking it to a friend of mine who was like one of those communist radfem types. And she was like, this is like from an ultra conservative source. And I was like, no, I don't know. Like, what is that? And she's like, Spiked. And so I was like, oh, I also didn't know. Like, everything, like, there was a Daily Caller. There's so many right wing sources that I'd never read anything off of until I read some gender critical stuff off of them. But it's like, ugh, it's so painful. Like, some of them will be like, it's like a whole article with gender critical, and then there's like one or two lines in there about a lesbian family and how one of them claims falsely to be like the mother of the children and stuff. And I'm just like, okay, we get it. Like, you hate the gays, we get it. Like, um, Rachel has a great summary, I think, because a bunch of you are now saying why you like Kelly and stuff. And like, okay, like, good for you. You can like Kelly. Like, that's okay. I'm just saying what I think of her. Rachel says imperfect people can do great things. It doesn't mean we can't be constructively critical of their actions, words, or professed beliefs. Yeah, exactly. That's what I'm trying to say. Like I've always said, if you are critical of what I'm saying or what I'm doing, that's your right and go for it. I'm not going to take it personally. Well, maybe I will, but I still think you should do it. Okay. Okay. I need to like ignore the live chat. I forgot like this is also a skill that I like learned and then it's been like a week since I've unlearned this skill. I need to ignore the live chat and look at the book. Okay. This is where we got from this. She's talking about the um yeah, so she talks about how it's like slanderous to refer to women like as these caricatures of like the fishwife, the bourgeois woman, the lady, the monster lesbian, the Jewish mother, all of these caricatures how they are like slanderous, and I would think of it as propaganda, which is how we got onto this topic, I'm pretty sure. Okay, let's keep going. I'm going to reread this paragraph because it was really like punch in the gut. Trigger warning for the paragraph. And the derision of female lives does not stop with these toxic, ugly, insidious slanders, because there is always, in every circumstance, the derision in its skeletal form, all bone, the meat stripped clean. She is pussy, cunt. Every other part of the body is cut away, severed, and there is left a thing, not a human, an it, which is the funniest joke of all, an unending source of raucous humor to those who have done the cutting. The very butchers who cut up the meat and throw away the useless parts are the comedians. The paring down of a whole person to a vagina and womb, and then to a dismembered obscenity, is their best and favorite joke. Oh, bye, Rachel. So, upon my first reread of this paragraph, right when I started this stream, holy fuck, an hour ago, I thought it's a bit weird that she brought this up and she didn't really reference it again. That's not true. She totally referenced all this again. When she talks about, is it Rachel Morgan? Yeah. When she talks about Morgan's quote from The Total Woman, she talks about how anything that any pornographic sexual fantasy a man wants to fulfill with his wife, as long as it's within the sanctity of marriage, it's not dirty and it's the wife's duty to do it. She talks about like anti-abortion and forced birth, the womb. This is all referenced back to that paragraph. She talks about like, oh my god, like it was so disturbing. Okay, anyway, I think that was kind of like the thesis of the essay of this paragraph. Oh my god, chapter. Almost. Okay. I'm gonna read a little bit more of the next paragraph and then we're gonna like do some more like general analysis of stuff. Because her resources are so astonishingly meager and because she has been deprived of the means to organize and expand them, these attempts are simultaneously heroic and pathetic. The whore, in defending the pimp, finds her own worth in the light reflected from his gaudy baubles. The wife, in defending her husband, screams and stammers that her life is not a wasteland of murdered possibilities. So the woman hangs on, not with the delicacy of a clinging vine, but with the tenacity incredible in its own intensity, to the very persons, institutions, and values that demean her, degrade her, and glorify her powerlessness, insist upon constraining and paralyzing the most honest expressions of her will and being. She becomes a lackey, serving those who ruthlessly and effectively aggress against her and her kind. This singularly self hating loyalty to those committed to her own destruction is the very essence of womanhood, as men of all ideological persuasions define it. So, when women say, in the metaphysical sense, womanhood is subservience, this is what they're talking about. She is so great at articulating in a very like material way what it is that the women are experiencing and what it is that the men's ideology is putting on the women. Oh, so okay, so I just wanted to like kind of get us back into the essay. Now we're back into the essay. Let's do some more general analysis. Okay. So she talks about Marilyn Monroe and how she was like a sexual prop for men, a sexual fantasy. She calls Monroe the consummate sexual doll. Um, and how she was afraid because of that. Um, and how because of that, because she was a fantasy to men, her existence became what men wanted it to be rather than what it actually was. Um, and basically how men do this, that they make women into this like next level of fantasy to like dehumanize them, to feel that they have power over it, right? Um, I'm going to read the end of this paragraph here about Marilyn Monroe. So she talks about how Norman Mailer came up with all these ideas that like the CIA killed her or something, or the Kennedys killed her or something. Conspiracy was a cheerful and comforting thought to those who had wanted to slam her until she expired. Female death and female ecstasy being synonymous in the world of male metaphor. But they did not want her dead yet, not really dead. Not while the illusion of her open invitation was so absolutely compelling. In fact, her lovers in both flesh and fantasy had fucked her to death, and her apparent suicide stood at once as accusation and answer. No, Marilyn Monroe, the ideal sexual female, had not liked it. So, like, whether the woman is alive or dead like this is kind of her point. Whether she's alive or dead is irrelevant at that point because she exists only as the male fantasy, and it is through that fantasy that she exists. Oh shit. Um, yeah. Okay, let's move on. But I think that really this whole section about Marilyn Monroe is about how women can be dehumanized and turned into like some 2D thing to men. And then she goes on to like how these women, out of fear, enter these kind of like contracts with men that I'm scared of all men. Um, and like Marilyn Monroe was scared. Yeah, like about the fear and the dehumanization and how they're basically trying to empower themselves because of the fear and dehumanization, but the way that they're choosing to do it dehumanizes and disempowers them even more because that's what they view as their option. I think is kind of her point with this. Like here, this is a great. This is kind of what I was trying to get at, with trying to like explain to you based on what she has to say. Um, Women die, mourning not the loss of their own lives, but their own inexcusable inability to achieve perfection as men defined it for them. Women desperately try to embody a male defined feminine ideal because survival depends on it. The ideal, by definition, turns a woman into a function, deprives her of any individuality that is self serving or self created, not useful to the male in his scheme of things. This monstrous female quest for male defined perfection, so intrinsically hostile to freedom and integrity, leads inevitably to bitterness, paralysis, or death. But like the mirage in the desert, the life giving oasis that is not there, survival is promised in this conformity and nowhere else. So that's what I'm saying. They view it as their only option for survival. So they lean into the dehumanization and the disempowerment. Um, but it's like a fucking lie. Like that's also, oh my god, like the Jesus stuff. Like I don't know. Why does the camera keep doing this? Um, yeah. So then she talks a bit about how women, the conformity. Why are women conforming? Women are conforming as a matter of safety. If I conform, I will not attract the attention of the violence. If I conform enough, it'll be the other women who are aggressed upon because they have attracted the attention and not me. Cass says, I think an enormously heartbreaking thing is girls who look up to Marilyn and try to emulate her life, thinking she enjoyed it. And because Marilyn was able to persevere through the shit, they have to as well to be like her. Yeah, it's pretty depressing. Okay. Then the next section opens with a quote from Terence Desprez from The Survivor, An Anatomy of Life in the Death Camps. So she basically talks about how people wouldn't take it seriously because it was so preposterous. But the quote basically says, "At what point, when every single person is telling you the same fucking thing, do you have to believe the preposterous?" Basically, how I understood it. If you understood it differently, obviously that's prerogative. Then, cut to the woman's experience. The accounts of rape, wife beating, forced childbearing, medical butchering, sex motivated murder, forced prostitution, physical mutilation, sadistic psychological abuse, and other commonplaces of female experience that are excavated from the past or by or given by contemporary survivors should leave the heart seared, the mind in anguish, the conscience in upheaval, but they do not. No matter how often these stories are told, with whatever clarity or eloquence, bitterness or sorrow, they might as well have been whispered in the wind or written in the sand. They disappear as if they were nothing. This all goes back to the idea that if men rumor something, fantasize about something, that's real. If women experience something and they tell us that's what's happening, it doesn't matter. It's not real. It's some mysterious, ubiquitous, unknowable thing. Matt Walsh is a perfect fucking example of this, right? This guy set his sights on this shit like what, like a year ago? Suddenly he's like the mastermind of what's going on. Radical feminists who have been when did Transsexual Empire come out? 97.3? Something like that. It's like early 70s, right? Can't remember. Have been like not just talking about it, like publishing about it for like 50 fucking years. And he's like, "Yeah, I got here first." The perfect fucking example of why I'm reading this fucking book right now. Okay. She kind of briefly mentions like the catch 22 of it, the paradox of it, that to believe a woman is a real person is to understand her suffering. But to understand her suffering, you have to feel that she's a real person to begin with. And so, because you're caught, like women are kind of caught in this cycle when it comes to like patriarchal society. Yeah, I've read some publications in like feminist quarterlies or like lesbian zines and stuff like that from the 70s of women talking about like the insidious nature of trans identified males coming into lesbian and feminist groups and events and spaces at that time. Yeah. When radical feminists have been talking about this for 50 years. Okay. I think I'm just going to be rereading so much of this essay in my analysis. It's going to be half like a summary, half a reread. It's so fucking good. Like, and if a woman, an individual woman multiplied by billions, does not believe in her own discrete existence, and therefore cannot credit authenticity of her suffering, she is erased, cancelled out. Okay, when I read this, first I was like, queer theory. All of these women who are identifying out of womanhood, They don't have a female clash consciousness. They don't have an experience of like, oh my god, I've experienced this horrible thing. No one else has experienced this. I'm alone in this suffering. Nobody knows what I'm going through. Nobody understands how bad it is. They're like identifying out of womanhood, I think in a large part because of that, because they have no female clash consciousness. They're erasing themselves. That she is canceling her existence, right? The other thing I thought of when I read this was I forgot. Let's keep reading. So, she is erased, cancelled out, and the meaning of her life, whatever it is, whatever it might have been, is lost. This loss cannot be calculated or comprehended. It is vast and awful, and nothing will ever make up for it. Marshmallow says, I never appreciated Dworkin until recently. I think Dworkin is like Mozart. Is like the first couple times you're like, oh, this is like, I don't really into this. It's like a bit much, you know? Then you wait a couple years, you come back, you listen to Don Giovanni, you're like, you know what? This is actually pretty good. Just needed to give it some time. It's very like in your face, you know? Okay, I don't know if Mozart's in your face, like compared to Stravinsky or something. But I mean, Dworkin, the first time I read it, I was like, oh, it was like being smacked in the face with a brick. I was like, what is this? It's like way over the top, so much generalizations. Like Mozart is a very bad example. Who's hard to listen to? Schnittke. Yes, actually, Schnittke is like the perfect example of Dworkin. Holy shit! Like Schnittke is like horror movie music, like makes your skin crawl. Um, but it's like you need to be disturbed sometimes. Do you need to be upset? Like you need to have these like face these hard fucking things. I think that's what Dworkin is like. Like it's painful to read Dworkin, but I think it's like you have to. You can't just ignore the stuff and pretend it's not happening. You know. Anyway, if anybody knows who Schnittke is, who is this Schnittke? Do you actually know who it is, Aqua? He has this really oh my god, my brain. Oh my god, my brain. What's his name? Okay, well, Yuri Bashmet. Yuri Bashmet, who is like professor at Moscow Conservatory, very famous violist. He played the Schnittke viola concerto, and he was playing it so hard. First of all, he was sweating down his face. The sweat was running off his viola. It's such an intense piece, and he literally broke the viola. Like the tailpiece came off the viola because he was like putting so much weight into his arm, and it's like crazy because they're designed to hold like 200 pounds of pressure or something. Like he broke his viola, and it's like there's like um it's like old out of tune piano, like upright harpsichord. Oh no, that's the concerto grosso. Like I don't know, his music is extremely fucking disturbing. Like I can't really sit and listen to like the whole like his concerto grosso is so upsetting. I can't really like sit and listen to the whole thing because it like makes my heart race. Like it's so upsetting. That is what Dworkin is like. Like there was a part of this where I was like speaking quite loudly and like really I think I was kind of like yelling as I was reading and I was like, okay, dude, you need to calm down. But I was like, yes, I feel this. I feel this. It makes me angry, you know? There's this other guy, what's his first name? Edward Haas. Haas, Haas. He writes these chamber music where he plays with overtones and like they like slip really, really slowly out of like sequence with each other. And so if you're like sitting in the audience listening to the music, like literally your skin will start to prickle because like your brain is trying to like process it and like square it together, but it sounds like slightly wrong, but not wrong enough that it's like wrong, but it's like slightly wrong. It's like really, really upsetting. And I was at the premiere of his eighth quartet, and it's meant to be played in a theater where all the lights are off, and it's like a 50-minute piece. So like there you can't read your music obviously on stage because there's no light, and there's no like so they have to just memorize everything, and there's no nonverbal communication because they can't see each other. Um, Edward Haas. Okay, let me look it up now. Oh, George Friedrich Haas. That's his name. Um, be sure that's his name. Anyway, like there's people in the audience having panic attacks because it was so intense. Like part of the music is listening to the people beside you and hearing them like because it's like so anxiety inducing that it's like a communal experience. Like it was so fucking upsetting. Anyway, that's what I think Dworkin is like. it's like it's like facing something that's gonna make you really upset. Um, but like that's art. It's meant to like evoke an emotion. This is not art. This is like, well, I mean, it's like artistically done, but this is like, work. Okay. Dude, like that's like Stravinsky, like it's like what is that, the second Viennese school? Like all of those composers, even like Rafavara and stuff, like or really contemporary stuff where like the music like glitches, Michelle says. Not the same thing, but I remember our band performing a piece that changed beats for measure every other. Our band leader wanted us to watch the audience to try to tap to the music. Yeah. Like when you're with like that polyrhythmic shit and you're just like as somebody who's played contemporary music, you start to hear it and you're like, oh, okay, I need to stop trying because it's impossible. Okay. Back to the thing. I keep getting distracted. I think I'm too tired for this. Hopefully tomorrow I'll not be so tired. How long is my shift at work tomorrow? Well, I'll just try and get a lot of sleep tonight. Oh, cool. Yeah. Anyway, okay. I'm gonna read that later, Aqua. Thank you. Let's get back to the thing. I'm so sorry I've been like so off topic. I'm very tired. Oh yeah, I keep track a lot of what's going on Twitter. I just have like a lot of anonymous accounts that sometimes get banned or sometimes I delete them. Like I don't really like take my Twitter too seriously since I was permanently banned with my real like brand. Okay. So, she's like women don't really have choices. The choice they have is, do I want to be violated and used by the man of my choosing or men at large? And she's like, in so choosing, as much as that is a choice, right? They're basically like committing a very slow, intentional, directional suicide. She even says that at some point in the essay. I mean, not the essay, the chapter. Okay. The list. The list. Okay. So, I'm going to read each point of the list and talk about each point of the list. So she's like, these are the promises that the ultra right or the conservative right makes to women. Form. Women experience the world as mystery. Kept ignorant of technology, economics, most of the practical skills required to function autonomously, kept ignorant of the real social and sexual demands made on women, deprived of physical strength, excluded from forums for the development of intellectual acuity and public self confidence, women are lost and mystified by the savage momentum of an ordinary life. Sounds, signs, promises, threats wildly crisscross. But what do they mean? The right offers women a simple, fixed, predetermined social, biological, and sexual order. Form conquers chaos. Form banishes confusion. Form gives ignorance a shape, makes it look like something instead of nothing. Oh, who is this Maple? Susan Wheat. Is she one of the Wiccans you mentioned before? I love how I always start the stream and the only like tab that's open is this. And then by the end of the stream I have like 8 tabs open. The fucking cameraman. There we go. Okay. I'll check it out. Thank you. Okay. So, form. So she's basically saying like women are brought up to be ignorant so that they're at the mercy of their husbands. What they're being promised is um if not real knowledge of how to navigate the world, a set of rules through which they can like if they follow the rules, even if they don't always know what's going on, they'll at least be on a safer path. Or if not a safer path, then a path where they know what's coming, which will feel um safer, right? Like to me, this leads back to well, this is kind of like not on topic, but I think about this so much when it comes to trans identification of females, and especially when it comes to like genital surgeries on trans identified females, is like they don't want to know. They don't want to have a theoretical knowledge of their body. They don't want to have a physical, intimate knowledge of their body. They don't want to know about their body, right? And to me, it's like depriving women of the knowledge and then socially making it a taboo to search out the knowledge. You've caught them in a perfect place of like mystery. And when they're in this place of mystery, they're like so susceptible to manipulation. And that is what she's talking about here. You catch them in a place of ignorance and a taboo of searching out the things that they don't know, and they are in the perfect place for like supreme manipulation. But like I think a lot of the time it's like women don't even know what it is that they need to be looking for to know more. Like I remember being in that position, being like, "Oh, like I can't think of anything specific right now." But I'm sure that there are women who like okay, like in ultra religious communities where nobody's allowed to get divorced, right? Like they wouldn't even know that you can look up the laws about what are women legally allowed to do when they want to get a divorce in their state because they don't know anyone who's gotten divorced. They never heard the word divorce before. All they know is that some women who got beat a lot ran away from home. That's all they know. So they're not going to go looking for legal help to get divorced, right? Like it's that level of unknown. Like if you don't even know what it is, you're not going to go looking for it because you don't know what it is that you don't know. Like um yeah, Red Blue Bay says, "Yeah, I was once a clueless not even knowing where to look." Yeah. Exactly. Okay. Okay. Second point, shelter. Women are brought up to maintain a husband's home and to believe that women without men are homeless. Women have a deep fear of being homeless, at the mercy of the elements and of strange men. The right claims to protect the home and the woman's place in it. Honestly, not to like disagree with Dworkin, but I kind of feel like shelter and safety are like the same point. But that might be because I have a more contemporary perspective on things. Like, she wrote a lot of the basis for this essay in the 70s, this book in the 70s, and her essays from the 70s. And so I think she meant it in a much more literal way than what I would perceive this as right now. So that's my perspective. Okay. Safety. For women, the world is a very dangerous place. Okay, wait, no. Yeah, this is safety. Okay. One wrong move, even an unintentional smile, can bring disaster, assault, shame, disgrace. The right acknowledges the reality of danger, the validity of fear. The right then manipulates the fear. The promise is that if a woman is obedient, harm will not befall her. So, like I said, if you obey, what did she call this? She called them at some point the tiny, vengeful gods or something. She referred to men like that. because they view themselves that way, right? They view themselves as like omnipotent, omniscient, all that. Um, if you treat your man as an ultimate authority, it's like this contract where you think he's supposed to protect you. Um, but really, it just means that he gets to abuse you as much as he wants, up to and including letting other men abuse you. I mean, I haven't heard of this very much in the West, but I know that in like Eastern, like in Muslim and like Indian religions, like Hinduism and stuff, I've heard of women who like, you know, they're raised to view their husband as the ultimate authority, and then once the husband has complete ownership over the woman, he like pimps her out because he's like, well, you're my property, so I can do whatever I want with you. Like the women really view it as like, I'm making this contract, and if I let him do whatever he wants to me, at least he's the only one I have to deal with. But it's like by giving him like complete authority over yourself, all you're guaranteeing is that you're at your mercy and nothing else. Like the whole thing is like a fucking lie. Like it's all built so that you can be used as much as the man wants in whatever capacity the man wants. At least that's how I see it. Okay. I'm sure women in the West are doing, I mean, that religious men in the West are doing the same. I just can't think of any examples that I've heard of. Okay. I would love to, like, not now because I'm so tired. I would love to go through this whole list and just think about religion and women in this list. Like, religion, ultimately, the way I view it, it's like propaganda to make women subservient. Like, if you humble yourself to God and accept that everything that's wrong in your life is because you're a sinner, then you will have hope that things can be better. Same thing in the marriage, right? If you humble yourself to your husband and accept every time he hits you it's because you're shitty and you need to do better, then you have hope that there's a possibility to do better and not get hit anymore. Like it's all the same thing. Um, yes, this is what I was talking about, Chagall. This is the only. I've also heard of Muslim men doing this, like when they have multiple wives. Chagall says in Hinduism, your husband is God. I'm Indian. Sometimes husbands traffic their wives and sell them into prostitution. That's so horrible. Chagall, are you in India? Also, if I'm like pronouncing your name wrong, please tell me and I will pronounce it the way that I'm supposed to pronounce it. Okay. Welcome to the stream, by the way. Kaz says, don't be a slut, but put out so you don't get be raped. Dress modestly, but not too modestly so you're not a prude. Be desirable, but not too desirable so it catches anyone else's eye. Fucking exactly, Kaz. Kaz, I feel like we always have like the same brain going on here. Okay, cool. Okay. Safety. Okay. Rules. Living in a world she has not made and does not understand, a woman needs rules to know what to do next. If she knows what she is supposed to do, she can find a way to do it. If she learns the rules by rote, she can perform with apparent effortlessness, which will considerably enhance her chances for survival. The right, very considerately, tells women the rules of the game on which their lives depend. The right also promises that, despite their absolute sovereignty, men too will follow specified rules. So, men's absolute sovereignty. They can do whatever the fuck they want because they're allowed to do whatever the fuck they want because they're men. So, the premise of the contract is false. Women don't know that because their end of the contract is absolute. That they're subservient, absolutely. They're at the mercy of men, absolutely, in this like right-wing contract situation, right? They view the men getting what they want out of the contract, and because they're oriented to view men as full persons and to not really view the lives of other women as authentic, they think, oh, well, the man's getting what he wants out of the contract. I just need to, it's my fault if I don't get what I want. I need to figure out how to get what I'm supposed to get out of it. I need to try harder. Right? It's like false. Okay. Love. This Disney bullshit. I'm not saying love isn't real, but I'm like a lesbian separatist. I believe the whole heterosexual thing is like stupid and obviously a con. Um, is that better? I think that's better. Well, whatever. Okay. So, before I even get into this is something too. Oh, hey, Lisa. 6 hours later, she's like, "Yo, you guys are still going." Okay. Well, 2.5 hours. Okay. Um. So let's not talk about Disney. Let's talk about the Bible. So you talk about the Bible in here. Um. God, I love you if you give yourself to me. I love you if you regret not doing what I tell you to do. I will love you and look after you and protect you and blah blah blah, heaven, all that shit. If you absolutely submit to me in every way possible, killing your own children, whatever, every way possible. Who knew Catholic school would be useful for something someday? Okay, so like I said, it's all propaganda to set women up to be manipulated. Like all fucking religion. Well, maybe not like Dianic witchcraft or something, but I don't know enough about that to really have an opinion on it. Okay. Love. Love is always crucial in affecting the allegiance of women. The right offers women a concept of love based on order and stability, with formal areas of mutual accountability. A woman is loved for fulfilling her female functions. Obedience is an expression of love, and so are sexual submission and childbearing. In return, the man is supposed to be responsible for the marital and emotional well being of the woman. And, increasingly, to redeem the cruel inadequacies of mortal man, the right offers women the love of Jesus, beautiful brother, tender lover, compassionate friend, perfect healer of sorrow and resentment, the one male to whom one can submit absolutely, be women as it were, because like she's kind of, if you were here for my Marilyn Fry essays, she views like womanhood metaphysically as the existence of like a submissive person, or like as she describes it as that's what men say womanhood is. Okay, without being sexually violated or psychologically abused. Like you might think that you could do it without being psychologically abused, but it's fucking brainwashing. Okay. Um I also think like she doesn't mention this, but I think it has to do with like affection and tenderness because like okay, throughout this book, I keep imagining like the fundamentalist church of like FDS, like Mormons, like the fundamentalist Mormons, the ones who have like tons of wives and their girls don't go to school because they're supposed to be wives and mothers. Like why would they go to school? Like that type. Um, um, and when I imagine this type of woman, FLDS, thank you, Maple, the fundamentalist Church of Latter-day Saints, thank you. When I envisage this type of situation, these women, all I can think of is so much work. When she was describing Anita Bryant, who was, I think, fundamentalist Baptist. Somebody correct me if you know more about Anita Bryant than I do. But like even Anita Bryant, who like when you compare them to like FLDS, she was pretty like liberal in her religious actions, right? But like FLDS, what is the existence of an FLDS woman? Her entire purpose is to have like 20 fucking babies, soldiers of God. Her entire purpose is to sexually service her husband because the husband deserves to get whatever the fuck he wants, and you're the only one there to give it to him. Your entire purpose is to wake up in the morning, do the farm work, cook the breakfast, do the laundry. Like your entire life is work and isolation. Work and isolation. Even if you're around other women, you don't feel isolated. You're not allowed to talk about the things that really matter. So I think in a psychological sense, you're still isolated, okay? Why is love so seductive to them? Because they view it as like a tenderness and affection that they're not getting. Like imagine, yeah, exactly. Imagine you grew up in that situation, right? From the day you were old enough to change a diaper, that was your job. From the day you were old enough to work in the fields, that was your job. From the day you were old enough to clean a dish, that was your job. Your whole life has been like endless work, endless isolation, and you just think, well, someday I'm gonna have a husband. When I choose that guy and I give him whatever the fuck he wants, the things that I don't know enough about to be scared of yet, he's gonna be affectionate towards me as a reward for that. He's gonna be so grateful to me for giving him those things. He's gonna be affectionate and tender towards me. Again, it's a fucking lie. It's all propaganda to get women to let down their guards and make these contracts in the first place. Okay. Oh, now we're getting into the religious stuff. I thought this stuff was so interesting because, like, there's probably some really Oh yeah, FLDS has arranged marriages, but most like conservative Christian sects at least pretend that the women have a choice, even if they really don't have a choice. But you're right, FLDS is arranged. Okay. No, that is the word, Julia. Yes. Also, Julia, like I don't know if this is like offensive to you because I don't know what language your schooling is in, but your English is amazing. Like I literally didn't know that you were not from like an originally English speaking country until we like zoomed or whatever. Useless Strawberry says the keep sweet mantra. Exactly. Michelle speaking from experience. Yeah, I mean, how many of us didn't grow up in some kind of religion? You know. Julia says, I judge all organized religions similarly, regardless of branch, if that's the right word. Yeah. Until a few years ago, I just thought it was all Abrahamic religions. So that's like, what order do they appear in? Judaism, Christianity, and Islam, whatever. I thought it was like they're the bad ones. Those are the bad ones because the Old Testament is like super, super misogynistic, and God is like, yeah, stone the rape victims and shit. But then I don't know a lot about Eastern religions, but I learned enough to be like, oh, all of it is the same fucking thing. It doesn't matter what the book is, what the words are, all of it is like the same goal. It's just a different path to the same goal. So I totally fucking agree. Chagall says, some young women in India now want love marriage, not arranged, but surprise, both are traps. Yeah. That's kind of what I was talking about before when like earlier on in the chapter, like at the very beginning, some of the women were saying like, like women have more independence now. So some of this is not really relevant. And I'm like, okay, they have more independence. So they view it as like I have more choices. But does making the choice actually land you in a different position than if you didn't have the choice? Like this. If you think that like arranged marriage or love marriage, both of them are paths to the same ending. So it seems like women have a lot more choices and a lot more like individuality and empowerment and stuff. But we need to, I think, really take a step back and look, what is the actual outcome? Is it actually significantly different? Bird grew up non-religious. My country is very secular. Oh yeah, you're from Sweden, right? It's sort of hard for me to understand what it really means to grow up in a religion, but I want to learn more. Lisa Michelle says there are good aspects to religion, but they are so outweighed by the bad aspects. Well, yeah, it's like from studying cults, it's like nobody would join a cult if every single aspect of the cult, it's like an abusive relationship. Nobody would jump into the relationship if it was immediately bad entirely from the beginning, right? Nobody would join a cult if everything about the cult was bad. So they draw you in like, oh, you want to learn like mindfulness meditation and like how to become healthy. Ooh, you want to learn like communication skills and like how to like revamp the relationships of your life. Like they all have like really useful things like Christianity, like, oh, be kind to your neighbors, take care of people, like people like give you like sympathy and like give you second chances and like forgiveness, and like they all have like these good things that will like lure you in. And then once you're in, all the bad shit becomes like once you're really sucked in, then all the bad stuff happens. It's like an abusive relationship. Yeah. Chagall says women are doing the same thing in either model, domestic and sex slave. Exactly. Like that's why I think too, like it's a false like a false dichotomy to be like, ooh, left versus right. Like no, one is like I mean, I've said this so many fucking times, I feel kind of stupid saying it again. Private ownership of the woman, public ownership of the woman. Either way, it's ownership of the woman. This is not like the solution, like one or the other. Like, oh, if you hate the right, you must like the left. No, they're both bullshit. Yeah. Useless Strawberry says, I thought Buddhism was better, but then a Buddhist told me female are under men, and if you do good, you can be a man in your next life. Yeah, exactly. I thought that too for a while. This is all the same shit. Same deal, different font, says Michelle. Very apt. Okay. So the religion stuff. Yeah, we're about 2/3 of the way through. Okay, so it'll probably be in like another half hour. Um, oh my gosh, Matt Adam, what a great analogy. Adam says, it's like asking a kid if they want to take a bath before or after dinner. It feels like a choice, but at the end of the day, they're still taking a bath. Yeah. Elisa Michelle says, women can never be free under capitalism, and no religion is more important than worshipping the almighty dollar. Very true. Okay. So I'm going to read. Um, okay, I'm going to read this whole paragraph because, as somebody, like I said, I haven't read any like feminist analyses of religion, like intentionally. I've only like seen it in passing. Um, like I haven't read any of Mary Daly's entire books, and I know that she has like quite severe analysis of religion. I'm sure I'll read them eventually. It's on my huge list of books to read. Um, I've read some of her essays that mention religion quite a while ago, though, like when I was 18 or something, and Marilyn Fry's analysis of religion. So this, I was like, wow, makes a lot of sense to me, and I never even thought about it before. So I'm going to read this whole paragraph. It is important and fascinating, of course, to note that women never, no matter how deluded or needy or desperate, worship Jesus as the perfect son. So I guess she means from the woman's perspective, from the perspective of Mary, right? No faith is that blind. There is no religious or cultural palliative to deaden the raw pain of the son's betrayal of the mother. Only her own obedience to the same father and sacrifice of her own life on the same cross, her own body nailed and bleeding, can enable her to accept that her son, like Jesus, can do to sorry, has come to do his father's work. Feminist Leah Fritz in Thinking Like a Woman described the excruciating predicament of women who try to find their worth in Christian submission. Quote, unloved, unrespected, unnoticed by the Heavenly Father, condescended to by the Son, and fucked by the Holy Ghost. Western woman spends her entire life trying to please. End quote. So I think she's talking about like power and how the woman views herself as not necessarily being more powerful than her son, but as being on a kind of equal footing with him because like she fucking gave birth to him, right? Um or at least being allies in some way, but to realize that he will surpass her in power and will go on to become like the tyrant that his father was, like in the social sense, right? And in so doing, no longer be her ally, never was her ally even, um, can be viewed as like a betrayal. And so she's pointing out that the way that they view Jesus in the Bible, women, even the most religious women, the way they view Jesus in the Bible shows you that they have an understanding of this to some degree. It's very interesting to me. Okay, so she mentions three women who've written three books. Bless This House by Anita Bryant, The Total Woman by Morgan, and The Gift of Inner Healing by Ruth Carter Stapleton. That one sounded the most horrific to me. Holy fuck, that was like way to brainwash yourself, that book sounded like. So, I'm gonna read all of the quotes from these women from their books because they were like so fucking jaw dropping. Well, like, I don't know. It's not like I could never imagine this, but just the quotes she picked, like the language and tone was like fuck, man. Um so in The Inner Gift of Healing, Ruth Carter Stapleton counsels a young woman who is in a desperately unhappy marriage. Quote, try to spend a little time each day visualizing Jesus coming in the door from work. Then see yourself walking up to him, embracing him. Say to Jesus, it's good to have you home, Nick. End quote. So, denial, delusion, or fantasy. It's like how to cope, right? How to trick yourself into thinking it's better than it is. Um, and it's like it's exactly this thing of like, no, Lisa, it gets worse. This is like the least bad one. Um, it's this thing of like, well, your husband, maybe he rapes you. Well, your husband, maybe he beats you. But just pretend your husband's not there and it's Jesus who's there. Well, he doesn't rape you. He doesn't beat you. He doesn't treat you like shit. Imagine that it's him instead. Yeah, M to Ann Niles. I don't know. I can't stop thinking about the Marilyn Fry book. Like I know I mention it every fucking stream. The Marilyn Fry essays that I read, there's a playlist of them. Like she really describes men as thinking that they're their own gods in their own worlds, right? Like in a metaphysical sense. And I really view like Christianity, like as it's like explained in this chapter of this book, as like the brainwashing to facilitate men behaving and then being treated as gods by their wives. So disturbing. Okay. Ruth Carter Stapleton. So it's obviously a huge cope for her, and she's passing on this cope to other women, right? So Ruth Carter Stapleton married at 19. Describing the early years of her marriage, she wrote, quote, after moving 450 miles from my first family in order to save my marriage, I found myself in a cold, threatening, unprotected world, or so it seemed to my confused heart. And I love this, like, to my confused heart. So she's like gaslighting herself. Like, dude, you were in a very bad situation, obviously, right? She's describing being isolated and like lonely and sad. And she's like, oh, but I was just confused because I didn't understand that like my purpose is to like serve a man. And if I serve a man, then I'll be happy, right? In an effort to avoid total destruction, I indulged in escapes of every kind. What does that mean? Like, did she cheat on her husband and do drugs or something, and now all of this is like her guilt? I'm not sure. A major crisis arose when I discovered I was pregnant with my first child. I knew that this was supposed to be one of the crowning moments of womanhood, but not for me. When my baby was born, I wanted to be a good mother, but I felt even more trapped. Then three more babies were born in rapid succession. Each one, so beautiful, terrified me. I did love them, but by the fourth child, I was at the point of total desperation. End quote. Okay, so many thoughts. First of all, she's like, at the fourth child, I was at a point of desperation. I think that's the point where, like, you know, religious women start getting back alley abortions because, like, I literally do not have the time and energy to take care of the things I need to take care of, and I'm not allowed to be on birth control. Like, what she's describing to me the first time I read it, that's what I thought. Um, I forgot that you guys always mention what you're eating. Guys, tell us, what are you eating today? Maple is making veggie kebabs. Okay. Um Also, I just want to point out language here. You guys know I have like a thing for language. When my baby was born, that it's like a passive thing. She didn't birth the child. It was born. It just came into existence. It wasn't a thing that she did. that was very like that choice of language. I mean, I know it's not like some unique choice of language, but it was just very like relevant to me. Um, that like she goes on to use this type of language. Like when she talks about I was trapped, I was sad, I was unhappy, she uses like that tense. When she talks about the things happening with her children, she says these things just happened, that I didn't do them. Um, hey Kiara, it's been a while. Um, then she says, then three more babies were born in rapid succession, each one so beautiful it terrified me. So her feelings, that's it. I experienced this thing. Having the children, that's not an experience she had. It just happened. So weird to me. Um, like to me, it's like she had to dissociate to cope. That's what it's telling me. Like I'm not a therapist, but this is what I'm getting out of this. And they're very disturbing. So apparently, um, she tried to kill herself after her fourth child. Um, and it was after that that she like surrendered to Jesus, and then she found her purpose, and everything was happy, and she was good, or whatever the fuck she says. Okay. So then she built this like faith psychotherapy. So Nick was her husband was a male homosexual. So she brainwashed herself into being happy with marriage, much in the same way that she brainwashed him into being happy in marriage. Um, this is just like so upsetting. Okay, trigger warning. A woman who was forcibly raped by her father as a child was encouraged to remember the event, only this time Jesus had his hand on her father's shoulder and was forgiving him. This enabled the woman to forgive her father too and to reconcile with men. That's the kind of stuff in this book that she wrote, this brainwashing book she wrote. This is the kind of stuff she wrote down. Like, this is what I mean when I'm like, yeah, everything about religion is just like the groundwork for manipulation. If you view, I'll try to do trigger warnings, but I just like everything in this book is a trigger. Everything Dworkin is a trigger warning. Like, don't listen to Dworkin if you don't want to be triggered. Like, it's so upsetting. Um, if you view like honestly, like my general takeaway from this chapter of this book and all the religious stuff was Jesus is the conduit for these women. Jesus is the conduit to ultimate submission to males, to men, and is also the conduit to forgiveness of males. Because on one hand, you view him as a proxy for all men, that he's a man and he is all powerful and all men are all powerful. And at the same time, you view him as a proxy for men, is that I can forgive him because he hasn't hurt me, even though the other men have hurt me. It's like very fucking insidious and disturbing. Um, Matt Adams says I'm currently driving and I audibly yelled. Yeah. Um, okay, this I feel like it's probably a much more visceral thing than how Dworkin worded it, which is the opposite of what you expect from Dworkin. A woman as a child was rejected by her father on the occasion of her first date. What does she mean by rejected? Was she beaten? Like, what does she mean, you know? The father did not notice her pretty dress, was encouraged to imagine the presence of Jesus on that fateful night. Jesus loved her dress and found her very desirable. Like, I feel like this dude. Oh, hey Ariel, why you deleted it? What were you say? Um, like I don't know what this guy did to his daughter, but she's obviously traumatized if she's bringing it up to other people, like years later, presumably. Like Jesus loved her dress and found her desirable. Why would you want Jesus to find you desirable? Because you want to fulfill the male fantasy, because that's how you view yourself as having um view yourself as having power, or that's what you view as having the option. If I'm desirable, I will get to choose which man I serve. But like we said, Jesus is a benign because he can't hurt you. So if you view Jesus as the one who found you desirable, it's nothing to fear. Whereas if you think a man on the street found you desirable, that's just something to fear, right? It's like, it's so insidious. Oh, Jesus can find me desirable. Then it's not so bad if men find me desirable because that wasn't so bad. So the next one, like, you know what I'm saying? It's so insidious. Okay. So then she talks about how Stapleton, because her book and her ministry, I don't know what that means exactly. Why does the camera keep doing this, man? There we go. Because her book and her ministry were so popular and her like weird brainwashing repression therapy with Jesus was so popular, she basically became like a working mother and wasn't at home and didn't have any more babies. Convenient for her that she could claim to be hyper religious and serving God, and through doing that, not have to do the things that made her so depressed when she was serving God, being a good wife, being a good mother. Also, Dworkin points out um, also she points out how this woman was like very successful, obviously, independent of her husband, obviously, and that this is obviously like very unchristian, ungodly, right? And so she like toned it down and was like very humble about it. But it's like the whole thing is paradoxical, basically. But why is it paradoxical? Because misogyny. If the misogyny wasn't there, it would be like acceptable for her to not want to have the children anymore, or like go and have a career or whatever. Okay. Madame says, I don't know why I find it shocking when are trying to appear attractive to Jesus, but I'll be honest, it never occurred to me that there are people out there thinking that. No, same. Like, I never thought that either until I read this and I was like, oh, kind of makes sense. Like, it makes sense, right? Because he's benign, yeah. Um, Kaz says, you can't say, oh my God, because that's using the Lord's name in vain, but you can use the Lord's name to justify evil actions. That's definitely not worse. Oh my God. That's the one thing I remember about visiting my like super religious family is like me and my sister started saying, oh my God, when we were quite young. And they literally would like stop talking and all like stare at us when we said that. And we were like, so like I trained myself to say, oh my gosh, when I was there. I was like, Julia, what language is that in? Like, because how does it? Fuck, I forgot everything I knew in Persian. I used to know how to say like. I used to know how to take the Lord's name in vain. All I can remember is like how to say God bless, but like the inverse. Isn't it like more? Anyway, whatever. Anyway, but yeah, that's like, yeah. Anyway, okay. Yeah, so you can't take the Lord's name in vain, but you can use the Lord's name to justify evil actions. That's definitely not worse. Yeah. Well, if you think about it again, I don't know. How do you say "Oh my God" in Arabic? Like, can you give me the exact translation of "Oh my God" in Arabic? Like to take His name in vain? I don't know. I don't really know what I'm asking you. I think I'm tired. Maybe I'm asking you something stupid. Okay. What was I saying? Oh yeah. Okay. So the reason that doing evil things in the name of God is not so bad, but saying evil things in the name of God, like taking the words "Ya Ilahi," "Shallah" or something. I laughed while typing. Uh, it has to do with thought control and brainwashing. So if you can say something, you can think that thing. That's why queer ideology is so successful because they've altered language and everybody says the language that way now, and so they think the way that the language is leading them to think, right? So if you take the Lord's name in vain, then you're admitting that he doesn't have that much power over you. Or you're admitting, oh my god, you even wrote it out in Arabic. Thank you, and Nile. I definitely don't know how to read Arabic. Looks pretty though. Julia's like, yo, someone else who's from the Middle East, who's not from Europe or America, North America. Um, but yeah, yeah. So if you take the Lord's name in vain, you're admitting that He doesn't have that much power, and that you don't think He has that much power over you. Because like the way I was raised was like, if you say, "Oh my God," or what's the other? Was there other swear words that reference like God or oh, what the hell? Like I literally the first time I said that, I literally stopped and I was like, what did I say? I was like, can he hear me? Like, is he listening to me? Jesus Christ, yeah, like taking like just saying like, oh god damn it, yeah. Like saying that the first time I think I said what the hell, I think. I literally like stopped myself and I was like, can he hear me? Did he hear like I thought about Tabelnak, thank you, Ariel. Um uh but it was like I truly believed that it was like Voldemort, you know? And he had power over me. Like that's I was brainwashed, right? Now when I say, "Oh my god," I don't even think about it. He doesn't have power over me. So this is like language leads to thought, leads to power. If you can control the language, you can control the thought, you can control the power. So that's why like saying bad things in the name of God is like way fucking worse than doing bad things in the name of God. Okay. Also, it's like when you're doing bad things in the name of God, who are you serving? Whose agenda are you serving? No, I literally thought it was like Voldemort. The first time I said, what the hell? I was like, I literally remember thinking, oh my God, can the devil or God hear that I said that? Am I going to hell now? Because I like took, I don't remember, man. I just remember being scared. Blue says, a red blue base says, I love how Lisa Michelle says, oh my God, is I tried to switch myself to saying that, but I had like quite a hard time to like say it all the time because I feel stupid saying it in front of like non rad femmes, or at least like my close friends who know that I'm like a lesbian separatist. They'd think they wouldn't blink an eye at it, but so I can't do it 100% of the time. I can't like make it a habit. Um, I wasn't allowed to watch Harry Potter or read Harry Potter when I was a kid. Um, like it's so strange because I did grow up like quite fucking religious, but by the time I was a teenager, I wasn't, even though I was in Catholic school. Um, but like I remember when I was a kid, I used to have one of those like portable DVD players that people had in like the mid 2000s. You know those like small ones where the screen is like this big. Um, and I had friends who would like lend me the Harry Potter DVDs, and I would like bring them home and like watch them in my bed at night with headphones like under the blankets, like on my little portable DVD religion portable DVD thing. And I remember watching is it Prisoner of Azkaban? No, the one with the parcel tongue. I don't remember which one that is, with the snake. And I remember literally being like, I hope that like Jesus isn't watching me because I'm gonna go to hell or something. Like I truly believed all that shit. Yeah, I lived with my uncle for a while. Chamber of Secrets, thank you. Um, by the way, I'm a Slytherin. What are you guys? Tell me your what's. Oh, wait, we're gonna do a poll. Just wait, I'm doing a poll. Pretty sure I misspelled at least two of these. Okay, you know. Okay, vote. Okay, okay. But yeah, dude, language has so much power. That was my point. Okay, let's read more quotes from these horrible books. Maribel Morgan's description of her own miserable marriage in the years preceding her discovery of God's will, is best summarized in this one sentence. Quote unquote, I was hapless and unhappy. She took her fate into her own hands by asking the not yet classic question, what do men want? Her answer was stunningly accurate. Quote, it is only when a woman surrenders her life to her husband, reveres and worships him, and is willing to serve him, that she becomes totally beautiful to him. End quote. So, women can only be self-fulfilled by making a man happy. Kiara, you're a Slytherin. I'm glad to be not alone. Okay, but isn't everybody like technically when I took the like official test told me I'm a Gryffindor, but I'm like, am I Gryffindor? I don't think so. I'm pretty sure I'm a Slytherin. Slytherin. Exactly. Thank you. Or hello, Reno. Renew 3? Oh wow, there's quite a few Slytherins. I didn't expect that. I feel like we're such a minority. That's a lot of Ravenclaws, man. Only 17 votes and there's 26 people watching. Yo, vote in the fucking poll, people. Ariel's also a Slytherin. I should have known. Your profile picture is very Slytherin. I don't know what it is, but it's green. Okay. Okay. Or more aphoristically, quote, a total woman, and again, what is womanhood? Womanhood is submission, like to men, caters to her men's special quirks, whether it be in salads, sex, or sports, end quote. Morgan defines love as unconditional acceptance of man and his feelings. You know, um, I've heard it said before that no one hates men as much as straight women. And reading these, there's so many of these things that explain like what do you have to do to love your husband? Like how? What are the steps to make yourself feel like you love your husband, make your husband love you? And I'm like, you must really fucking have a low opinion of your relationship and him that you need to like follow some kind of step-by-step process to have positive feelings towards him. Like you must really have a bad opinion of them that you need like some kind of a list of things to do to feel good about them, you know? Okay. Okay, this part was like so crazy to me cuz like I once did a project in school on like sex in the Middle Ages and how it was like so strict like if your husband ever wanted to do like any oral sex ever or like if your husband wanted to do like foreplay or something it was like grounds for divorce or like an annulment or whatever because it was that strict like what like godly sex was. Okay, so reading this now, like it's not surprising to me considering like the pornification of society. Like obviously it doesn't matter what religion you are, men have become like super depraved, but like it was just crazy to me reading this. Okay, Morgan's achievement in The Total Woman was to isolate the basic sexual scenarios of male dominance and female submission and to formulate a simple set of lessons, a pedagogy, that teaches women how to act out those scenarios within the context of a Christian value system. In other words, how to cater to male pornographic fantasies in the name of Jesus Christ. As Morgan explains in her own extraordinary prose style, quote, that great source book, the Bible, states, marriage is honorable in all, and the bed undefiled. In other words, sex is for the marriage relationship only, but within those bounds, anything goes. Sex is as clean and as pure as eating cottage cheese. End quote. Morgan's detailed instructions on how to eat cottage cheese, the most famous of which involves saran wrap, makes clear that female submission is a delicately balanced commingling of resourcefulness and a lack of self-respect. Too little resourcefulness or too much self respect will doom a woman to failure as a total woman. A submissive nature is the miracle for which religious women pray. Kaz, like, what's next? How to be a bimbo in a Christ-like way. I mean, there was some good Slytherins who did some good shit. Okay. They're just more Machiavellian than the other houses, I think. They're just like more complex in their goodness, hidden behind some not so nice exteriors. Okay. Okay, now we have Anita Bryant. I want to know what the fuck is this cottage cheese thing. Okay, please hold. Okay. So it's actually I thought it was gonna be something like super, super dirty and porny, and it's not. It's just kind of like ridiculous. Um, I mean, it's still like sexually objectifying, but it's not as bad as I thought it was gonna be. So first of all, she was like a self-help guru. Like she published a lot of books. So I bet you she went on like tours and like did trainings or something like that. Oh, she's still alive, I think. Well, good for her. Um, so the saran wrap thing, it's just like to answer the door when your husband comes home and dressed in nothing but saran wrap. Can you imagine like a woman alone in her kitchen being like, I'm gonna put on saran? Like, dude, that's not balancing self-respect. That's no self-respect. Um, oh, okay. I've basically given up on the Discord. If I make the Discord like if I start doing like planned stuff on the Discord, I'm pretty sure it'll be like in mid July, just to be honest with you guys. So if I do that, I will, if I get back into it, I will answer everybody who sent me friend requests, everybody who sent me messages on Discord, and everybody who sent me emails. Okay. All right. I found the Anita Bryant thing interesting because, like, I knew basically who she was and what she did when it came to like the anti-homosexuality stuff and some of the like misogyny like stuff, like be a good wife, whatever. But I didn't know her whole backstory. So, um, what are the seven deadly sins? When I went to the Vatican, I literally bought myself like a little compact, like a mirror that had like a thing of St. Peter's on it, St. Peter's Chapel thing on it, because I thought it was so funny because vanity is one of the seven deadly sins and they were selling a fucking compact at the fucking Vatican. And I was like, this is amazing. Okay. Lust, gluttony, greed, sloth, envy, pride. Okay. So she was very, okay. Thank you. Wow. You were faster than my Google was. Okay. Whatever. Okay. Anyway, so Anita Bryant, before she found God and all that shit, and became like a fundamentalist Baptist. Uh, uh, so she was very ambitious with her like singing career, and that's pride, right? Basically, when I was reading through like the backstory of Anita Bryant, all I could think about was how like if you become religious, you have to look back on everything you've done and find your sins, right? And I'm like, so much of her upbringing like qualifies as sinful if you're like hyper religious. And so I'm like, of course, then everything she was doing was like to cope with her guilt after she became religious, right? Okay. So she was basically stalked by her husband. Um, I want to know more about this. Like the way Dworkin writes it is Green manipulated Bryant with a cruelty nearly unmatched in modern love stories. And it's so crazy that she has like that note about after Bryant got divorced, um, and that she like basically was saying that Christianity like doesn't do much for women and they need to like care more about women. And so I basically am like, how much of all the like activism stuff she did when she was married was actually like her being the mouthpiece of her husband? Um, I do remember when I was reading the Revolution, the Gay Revolution, the story of the struggle by Lillian Federman, which I read parts of it on this YouTube channel, but most of it I read on like Clubhouse, which was not recorded. Um, that her husband was like integral to everything she was doing. Like she was very rarely mentioned without her husband being somehow involved. So I really wonder how. I'm not trying to say she did nothing wrong. Obviously, like she had like a huge negative impact. She's the one basically started the like the gays are coming for your children thing. Um, but yeah, anyway, very interesting to me. Okay. Like in the quotes where she describes her husband, it basically just sounds like he's super fucking abusive. Um, so he's like, I'm a father to my children. I'm not a pal. I assert my authority. I spank them at times, and they respect me for it. Respect, more like they fear you, bro. Respect and fear are not the same thing. Um, Sometimes I take Bobby into the music room, and it's not so I can play him a piece on the piano. We play a piece on the seat of his pants. Um, she says that he was violent towards her, but he says he wasn't, and she never went into detail. What does that mean? Oh, hey, Myron. Um, Like, listen to this quote. Bob has a way of getting my dander up and backing me against a wall. He gets me so terrifically mad at him that I hate him for pushing me into a corner. He did that now. You're a hypocrite, Bob said. You profess to have Christ in your life, but you won't profess him in public, which Christ tells you to do. Because I know he's right and hate him for making me feel so bad about it, I end up doing what I'm so scared to do. Like, he's just abusive. Conforming to the will of her husband was clearly a difficult struggle for Bryant. She writes candidly of her constant rebellion, Greene's demands, from increasing her public presence as a religious witness to doing all the child care for 4 children without help while pursuing her career she genuinely loves, were endurable only because Bryant, like Stapleton and Morgan, took Jesus as her real husband. Only as I practiced yielding to Jesus can I learn to submit, as the Bible instructs me, to the loving leadership of my husband. Only the power of Christ can enable a woman like me to become submissive in the Lord. Maple, very, very accurate. Maple says it's not enough to be brainwashed yourself. You need to get out there and brainwash other women. Very accurate, yeah. The bird killing says he makes Voldemort seem pleasant. Yeah, like Dade County in Florida was going to introduce city ordinances. I think they were like super basic. It was basically you can't fire someone or evict someone for being gay. It was like super, super basic. Um, in the late 70s. And Anita Bryant, like, she mobilized like the entire Christian right of the United States against these people. And like it was like a domino effect. After she did it in a few like cities, then there was a couple of like bigger municipalities or states that tried to do similar things. Like, again, it was like super, super mild stuff. It was just like you can't evict them for being gay. And it's also like I don't even think it would have really been enforced in the 70s, even if it had happened, right? Um, but like she mobilized like the entire Christian right of the US to like do like letter writing campaigns and like radio interviews and like spend their money to like make sure these things didn't happen. Um, like she was hugely influential. Anyway, what's the one that's Phyllis Schlafly, Maple? Kevin talks about Phyllis Schlafly. So she thinks Dworkin points out that she thinks Schlafly is special because she doesn't like acknowledge that things are bad for women. All these other women, they're like things are bad for women, but this is how you can make your life better. Basically being like things are bad, but you need to take it on yourself that something is bad because you're doing things wrong and you can fix it. It's like it's your fault. Phyllis Schlafly says nothing is wrong and it's your fault that things are bad, but nothing is wrong. Um, but then McKinnon, no, in 1982 at Stanford University, McKinnon and Schlafly debated each other. And in the debate, McKinnon goes on this long, it's like huge, like it's half the page. Like if you were reading along with me, which I doubt many of you are, all of this is the note. It's like half the page is the note. And it's basically saying, um, you're so fucking qualified for the jobs that you want to have in the government. Like you have a law degree, you've published a bunch of books, you've testified on panels, like whatever. I don't know fucking know. It says a bunch of shit in here. And she's like, you basically stopped the ERA in its tracks. She's like, you've done all these things. So you're very qualified, but you're not getting the job in the Reagan administration because you're a woman. Um, and she like half concedes to agreeing with that. Just that was very interesting to me. Okay, now, um, there's so many Ravenclaws, man. Okay, so now she talks about that she went to this National Women's Conference in Houston in 1977. She spoke with many right wing women there. So she said, she talks about how right wing women fear lesbians, and she's like, none of them have any experience or have heard any stories that they actually like have a basis for their fear. She basically is saying that it's a tool of deflection, that they're scared of the men in their lives for good reasons. And it's easier for them to say, like, oh, those bad guys over there, they're the problem. Because it's easier to do that than to look at what's going on closer to home, right? Um, yeah. So she's like, I would talk to them and they would admit that they had heard about, like, you know, they all knew women who had experienced sexual violence within the family, within the home, but at the hands of men. None of them had heard of anybody experiencing any sexual violence from lesbians, and yet they were convinced that the lesbians were like the real like rapists and sexual assaulters, and that men were like, misunderstood or something. So there's no reasoning with them because they're brainwashed. Um, she briefly touches on abortion. I'm not going to really talk about it because she has a whole chapter on abortion, so I'll wait till that. Um, this is so interesting to me. So she said she was so confused about what the right wing women had to say about abortion and the ERA, that she couldn't really like understand what it was they were talking about. That after she read Schlafly's um, "The Power of the Positive Woman," and in that there's a quote: "Since the mandate of the Equal Rights Amendment is for sex equality, abortion is essential to relieve women of their unequal burden of being forced to bear an unwanted baby." End quote. Forcing women to bear unwanted babies is crucial to the social program of women who have been forced to bear unwanted babies, and who cannot bear the grief and bitterness of such a recognition. The Equal Rights Amendment has now become the symbol of this devastating recognition. This largely accounts for the new wave of intransigent opposition to it. Mhm. Yeah, Maple, I agree. I don't know if she like started it. I think she's probably just the woman who like bought into it the most high profile. But yeah, um, but it's crazy to me because she's like, "Yep, women are being fucked over," but like, if we want to make sure they keep getting fucked over, like the forcing women to bear unwanted children, um, is an unequal burden. Like she's saying it's not fair to women, but she's saying we need to make sure that it keeps being unfair to women. Like that's weird to me. Then she talks about anti-Semitism. Again, she has another whole chapter about this. In the book, well, the homosexuals and the Jews is the name of the chapter. Um, but this is again like the hatred of the lesbians, the hatred of abortion, because they're not saying abortion is happening close to home, they're saying it's happening out there, right? The hatred of abortion, the hatred of um, the Jews, all of this is about looking at the outside and saying, look, the bad stuff is going on over there. It's not our problem, it's over there. It's all deflection, right? So this phrase, it's so relevant to queer theory stuff. The right in the United States today is a social and political movement controlled almost totally by men, but built largely on the fear and ignorance of women. The quality of this fear and the pervasiveness of this ignorance are consequences of male sexual domination over women. Every accommodation that women make to this domination, however apparently stupid, self defeating, or dangerous, is rooted in the urgent need to survive somehow on male terms. Inevitably, this causes women to take the rage and contempt they feel for the men who actually abuse them, those close to them, and project it onto others, those far away, foreign, or different. Dude, how is this not queer theory? Right? Because every single man who labels himself as a non binary or a queer or something, he's one of us. He's one of the good guys. Then you can say, oh, the cis het straight men, whatever. They're the bad guys over there. That's the bad guys over there. It's not me. It's not over here. The men that I'm placating, the men that I'm making contracts with to survive with, it's the men over there. They're the problem. So the conclusion of this chapter is basically about how women are being like, all of this is like a big con for women. How women are making these contracts because they think it'll be better for them, but actually it's like not. Okay. So she also is saying like you can pick who the dangerous bad guys are. Like you can turn the racism up or down. You can turn the anti-Semitism up or down. You can turn the homophobia up or down depending on what needs there are at the time for the agenda of the group, right? But there's always some bad guy out there who is the problem, so that it's not in here, it's out there. To convince the women that the men who are here, they're the good guys, right? Okay, I'm gonna read the last paragraph of the, and then I think we're gonna wrap it up for today. The tragedy is that women, so committed to survival, cannot recognize that they are committing suicide. The danger is that self sacrificing women are perfect foot soldiers who obey orders, no matter how criminal those orders are. The hope is that these women, upset by internal conflicts that cannot be stilled by manipulation, challenged by the clarifying drama of public confrontation and dialogue, will be forced to articulate the realities of their own experiences as women, subject to the will of men. In doing so, the anger that necessarily arises from a true perception of how they have been debased may move them beyond the fear that transfixes them to a meaningful rebellion against the men who, in fact, diminish, despise, and terrorize them. This is the common struggle of all women, whatever their male defined ideological origins, and this struggle alone has the power to transform women who are enemies against one another into allies, fighting for individual, collective survival that is not based on self loathing, fear, and humiliation, but instead on self determination, dignity, and authentic integrity. Okay, I'm so tired. I feel like my analysis, I feel like we spent 1 hour talking about random books and me moving and like Harry Potter and shit. And like, dude, why does the camera keep doing this? There we go. Okay. Okay. So, tomorrow, it says 1:15, but I'm pretty sure I'm going to start it at 1:30. Tomorrow at 1:30, we're going to read chapter 2. There's a Virginia Woolf quote at the beginning. Okay, let's read the Virginia Woolf quote. Yeah. Why is life so tragic? So like a little strip of pavement over an abyss. I look down. I feel giddy. I wonder how I am ever to walk to the end. It's a feeling of impotence, of cutting no ice. Virginia Woolf, Her Diary, October 25th, 1920. This is called The Politics of Intelligence. This one I'm very interested. I have no idea what it's really about. It's very interesting. Okay, so I'm fucking tired. I'm like falling asleep here. I'm gonna go. Oh, Maple, why did you need this today? What's going on? Are you okay? Um, this has been so chill. Honestly, I wanted to like do it yesterday, but I didn't really have time. I was like, I'm gonna have to force myself to do like the whole reading and the analysis in like 90 minutes, and I was like, I don't want to do that. Yeah, I moved last week. That's why I didn't stream for like 11 days in a row or something. Cause like I like packing up, getting this stuff here, and then unpacking has been like such a big deal. And like the Wi-Fi of the house doesn't reach my bedroom. I have to get my own router and like get my own like run my thing and stuff. Oh yeah, the Johnny Depp trial, yeah. Well, like honestly, I feel like a lot of this right-wing women stuff, it's actually just like it's honestly just like a critical analysis of heterosexuality in a lot of ways. Because it's like aren't most women in heterosexual relationships just engaging in this but to like a much lesser degree, like in a diluted way, right? I think a lot of this applies to the Depp stuff right now. Oh my god, Maple, I'm so sorry. That's horrible. Well, Lisa says not even diluted. Yeah. I mean, she puts it to the extreme of like, I have to like visualize my husband as Jesus so that I can like treat him like a fucking god. But like, yeah, I think it's, yeah, you're right. It's not even really diluted. Okay. I'm going to go. Shout out to all the Ravenclaws. You won the poll. Surprised how few Gryffindors there are. Pick meism, says Chagal. Yeah. Um, yeah. I'm glad that there's so many Slytherins here. I feel like we're so hard to find Slytherins. Lisa's a Hufflepuff. Matt Adams a Ravenclaw. Yeah. Okay. So, like I always tell you guys, if you please like, comment, and subscribe. Obviously, I don't always tell you that. What I was going to tell you, keep track of my lives. All my live streams for this book, all 12 of them, because there's 6 chapters and 6 conversations happening, are all pre-scheduled. Go on my channel and click notify me, so you get notifications. Or alternatively, put it in your calendar on your phone, put an alarm on your phone, something to remember. Oh, Benji is streaming. Go to the stream, okay? Um also, yeah, I might move some of the streams depending on like work or if I'm like really tired and stuff, but they're all in a playlist. So, if you look at the playlist, you will see when is the next stream. Oh, she moved it back half an hour, you know? Lisa says, "Thanks for teaching us." I don't really feel like I'm teaching. I feel like I'm just like rambling randomly and reading things. I feel like I'm basically just reading to you guys, like you're children and you can't read for yourself. No, I'm joking. No, it's like really motivating for me, honestly, to read for you guys. Also, I know today my reading skills were like, I need to sleep, and also I'm kind of out of practice. As I was reading, I was like, wait, didn't I decide I needed to read slower? Didn't I decide I needed to like use different like inflection in my voice, like all this stuff? And I'm like, I'm not doing it right. So hopefully it'll get better like tomorrow, the next couple days. So yeah, tomorrow, let's just say 1:30. I'm gonna switch it to 1:30 because that's just realistically that's what time I'll be ready to stream. So 1:15 was a bit ambitious. Thanks for showing up, guys. It's been fun. Okay. Yeah, I'm gonna like have a nap or something. I'm so tired. Okay. See you all. Thanks for showing up to the stream. Yeah, have a good rest of your day. See you at school tomorrow. Bye.